What's up? What's up? Real MVPs, fuck it, Soapy. I'll do it. And it's not a you thing. It's just me being upset. Welcome into MVP Games Live, the gaming show here at MVP Entertainment. And thank you guys for coming in, watching us today on our YouTube page. I'm a little upset because, so this is, I know, first world problem, Soapy. And I know some people may be like, well, Ricky, this is fixable. Maybe get a job and you'll fix it. I also say watch our videos and that would also fix it as well. And share our videos and all of that jazz.
There's a lot of passive aggressiveness going on here.
Today's just been, I've been in a shit mood all day. I think it's because I woke up late, because I only got, first off, I'm Ricky Widmer. I'm joined with my beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffin.
Hey.
And getting into the pre-show of it, I think I'm just in a shitty mood today because going into yesterday, I only got 3 hours of sleep. And that didn't bug me yesterday. But then today, I slept for about the normal 8 hours, then fell back asleep after 2 hours, and slept for another 4. So I think there's something going on with my mood today that I'm just in a shitty mood because I slept for so long. So this show will be interesting. Then on top of it, I tell everyone in my house, hey, I'm recording at this same set of times each and every day. And my dad decides, oh, right now is the best time to vacuum. And I know he's going to come right by my door and it's going to make it unbearable. And I thought he was going to do that right before we started. So today's just been a shit of a day, and I'm going to get through it. We're going to have a great show today, Soapy, because we are not doing a Mold Breaker Monday. We are not doing a normal show. We are doing a throwaway Thursday is what we're calling it. We have the Mold Breaker Mondays. Then it turns into a, what's our Tuesdays again? Trend-setting Tuesday, workaround Wednesday. We're throwing away, like throwaway Thursday, and then if it ever gets to a Friday, fuck it Fridays. Because it's basically the end of the week, and it's like, whatever, fuck it. It's a Friday. But welcome into MVP Games Live. Thank you guys for checking in today. We're talking about some gaming topics today, or today one gaming topic, which is Crunch. You guys see it with the title down below. Before we get into everything, though, let's get through the housekeeping. Number one, if you're not in the MVP Discord, you got to go ahead and join that today. That link is down below in the description. It's truly the greatest community in all of the universe, or if I went medieval, all of the land. If you want to support us, you can check out patreon.com/MVP vids. We got bronze, silver, gold, and platinum tiers for you to support us at. Thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill. And last but not least, support the channel, share it, get it in front of other people, hit that sub button, that like button, that notification button, and also comment down below if you're watching this after the fact. But Soapy, today's topic comes to us from you, so I will hand it off to you in a second. But basically, we are talking about crunch in gaming and how we as gamers. So the thing when you proposed this to me, I wanted to keep the onus on what can we do, a you, a me, anyone out there watching, not people who are in the games industry. What can we do as just ordinary gamers to help us limit crunch in gaming, because it's a huge problem. I am also going to preface, Soapy, that there is a possibility that I take the you or the Dave approach and just be a little shitlord today on the show and play devil's advocate and be more negative than my positive self. But since you brought this topic in, I'll let you take it away and kind of set everything up for us.
So obviously, this video topic popped into my head earlier today because currently on YouTube there was or at least like the last couple days, there's been a little bit of beef on Twitter and YouTube. Basically, there's a YouTuber named Pat Stares At, or Angry's Pat, whatever you know him by. Basically, he had made a comment on Twitter. Basically, there was a person in the games industry that is he's pretty well known by a lot of people as being a shit person. And basically, a former game dev responded to Pat. And basically was like, oh, basically you don't have to speak this negativity in. And, Pat had brought up a video by him of gamers need to shut the fuck up about crunch. And that's basically and he had wanted to bring Pat on, to debate him, or not really debate him, just kind of have a discussion about it.
Is he gonna debate him,
You know,
or is he gonna basically flee like Steven Crowder did when Ethan tried to debate him?
oh, what happened?
No, I
Pat
know
backed
what
down out of
happened,
it.
Soapy, and it was beautiful.
Well, no, I'm not talking about with the Steven Crowder stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's not where my thing's coming from.
Yeah.
It was Pat basically was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not wasting my time to go on your show.
Okay.
But basically, that's outside of that type of stuff. And
Yeah.
basically, in that thing, the person who was a part of the game industry, I'll just say his name. I don't know why I'm dancing around. It's like David Jaffe, which essentially, if you guys don't know,
who he is?
you know something he was involved in.
Probably.
He was one of the original creators of God of War.
Okay.
Like he was involved in like the first 3 God of War.
So he's on the side of shut the fuck up about Game Crunch.
Yeah, well, and the reason that he stands on that side is because the fact that essentially people backpedal out of it. They're like, "Oh, Crunch bad," and then they just do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Where then basically he was talking about how like, like the way that the games industry is built right now. Like this is how Crunch works. Like Crunch is basically, he said, as much as he does not like it, it's basically a necessity.
Like it's just a part of the game. Don't hate the play, hate the game.
Yeah, and basically that's where I wanted to kind of have this conversation, base it from there. Because obviously when he had brought up the point of, like people kind of just backpedal out of Crunch, I never really thought of it like that. I always just kind of looked at it and it was like, oh, like we hear people talk about Crunch all the time. And it's like, oh, what happens? People still bought Cyberpunk. People still buy Naughty Dog games when they come out, when they crunch. People still buy Activision games and they crunch.
Well, and so I'll wait. I'll wait until you make your first point, because I know you have a bullet point list that you were talking to me about before the show.
Yeah, and basically just kind of where I want to start my point at is
Start
I think one of the major things. Yeah, basically I think the major point that people need to do is essentially stop having this like damned if you do, damned if you don't approach to a game. And for instance, the example I use is Cyberpunk. For instance, Cyberpunk, when it kept getting delayed, it was getting memed to death. It was getting made fun. Like, people were basically like, oh, cool, this game's gonna fucking suck because we gotta wait like 3 more years for it.
Yeah.
When they come out with it, you get the people that are like, see, we said they should have delayed it again. It's like, no, you guys are the same fuckers who were telling them to release the game already. Like, I think people need to stop having such like a wishy-washy, like, oh, like, Crunch is only bad when I don't like it.
Well, and here's the thing with this is, for me, I feel like it's one of those, it's kind of like looking at this topic is kind of the same way that many people, young people, even before this year, would look at politics, to where it's like, what can I do alone? I can't change it by myself. And like, you're right, we need to be more consistent of either stand with your point of, hey, don't rush things and let them take as much time as needed, or stand with your point of, no, I want to see the game right now, and then you can bash it because it's not that good. Consistency, I can live with that. My problem is, and this kind of goes with all the points, but like, gaming is so prevalent over hype cycles. Like, that's what it is. Like, you look at sports, and I only say sports because we also do our sports channel. Sports is like dedicated throughout the year. There's a certain schedule that we follow. And with gaming, we kind of have that same thing. You have E3 season, you have Game Awards season, but we expect so many things from these. Like E3, we were expecting big announcements. It's kind of like the Super Bowl of gaming, to where it's like, okay, this is going to be where all the announcements had. And if something is not ready to be announced, I mean, you look at, for example, like Halo Infinite. Like, they had the multiplayer, but we didn't see anything besides the multiplayer shown. You look at like Breath of the Wild when they had their direct. Yeah, they came out and said, oh yeah, by the way, we're not ready to show it. Fans were disappointed. And I feel like that comes into it of like, we have been ingrained into this hype cycle where we expect things from E3. We expect now announcements at the Game Awards. It's like any single time. Now we have these little like standalone state of plays and showcases and Nintendo Directs to where it's like we almost expect announcements now every single point of the year. And in a gaming cycle, you and I have talked about a game itself, you kind of got to ride this wave of like you want the hype to go up, but you don't want it to go too high because if the hype goes too high, how am I going to overlive that hype? But then it's also of like, okay, the longer it takes, okay, that hype is then going to go down. And it's kind of like wearying on, okay, where am I on the hype? If the hype keeps going down, can I get that hype back? Because getting hype can be the worst thing in the world to get back once you've lost it, to where it's like, I think it's kind of, you can say it's our fault for being like, this is how gaming is.
Yeah, and I think that does play into it. And obviously, I think it is something that, us as gamers, we need to look at, and we need to be like, okay, if we're going to bash a company for doing this, that's why, leading into my second point of where I say, if you hate crunch as much as you say you do, I'm not saying you specifically, I'm
Yeah,
talking about
just the
people in general.
general, the royal you.
Yeah. Of how, like, you get the people that they're like, oh my god, like, I fucking hate crunch, I can't stand it. If you hate it as much as you do, stop buying the games.
Yeah.
That's how you influence change in the industry. But then you get the people like, well, I don't want to have to do that because blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, no. It's the typical, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You need to choose, like, okay, do you want a game? Obviously, a lot of people want a game. But if you are like, essentially, if you are allowing a company like Activision to basically be like, oh yeah, we're gonna treat our workers like borderline slaves, like not pay them for all this overtime they're doing, and then get mad about it. It's like, so why do you keep buying their games?
Because in the end, the game is fun. It's kind of like the same thing of where it's like, for example, your Nike shoes that some of you like to wear, and this is not me getting all mile high road, because I'm the same way. Like, I don't look at things and go, oh, this was made in a sweatshop, I'm not going to buy it. I'm sure there's numerous things that I own that were probably made in a sweatshop somewhere. But like the same thing of like, oh, you like to buy all this expensive shit, but X company maybe, oh, was making this shoe in a sweatshop. Are you not going to buy it because it was made in a sweatshop? Oh, no, you're just going to ignore the fact that it was like that and just go ahead and buy your shoe, wear your shoe. Same thing here. Oh, that crunch is a bad thing, but at the end of the day, if you're still buying the game and playing the game, are you really that upset about it? Because at the end of the day, it's, okay, I got my game. Thank you. Not even a thank you, just a worker did worker job kind of a thing.
Yeah, and that's why, like, one of the major things that I stand by with just the general premise of, getting rid of crunch in gaming is the way you do it is you have to change the fundamental mindset a company has. You need to show a company of like, no, we're not going to take it if you're going to, if you're going to sit here and treat your workers like shit. We're not going to like reward you for doing that.
Yeah.
And you need to basically be able to put your foot down. The problem is us as gamers, like, we have so many moments of where we're like, yeah, we're going to put our foot down, like, oh, this company, we're gonna prove something, and then when we do it, when you have a situation of where it's like, oh, we try, we do something, and then like a week later, it's just no one's talking about it anymore.
Yeah.
Of where that's why I view it as a situation of where it's almost like half the time when people bring up crunch. And they're talking about it being like an insanely bad thing. Don't get me wrong, I think crunch is a fucking god awful thing. I think more than half the time when companies are doing it, it's just negligence from the company itself.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think there's things that need to change on the gaming company side, but that's not really the conversation we're having today. But I think it's, as a gamer, you need to be able to put yourself in the shoes of that dev of like, do I want to work like 40-hour work weeks? Basically be told like half the time like, hey, you're gonna have to miss your kid's birthday because you have to do this. And obviously, that's just kind of the working world in general.
Yeah, I mean,
like a lot of the working world, like they tend to basically
Well,
kind of get fucked over in a lot of situations.
and it's not even like a 9 to 5 type of thing where like someone who has a 9 to 5 job, hey, at least I still have that evening with my kid or whatever, or a spouse's birthday. Hey, I still have the evening with them. Whereas, for example, a like video game, it is so many times it's turned into there is no like end of the day to where basically most times it's okay, I'm taking my work home with you. And there are other jobs that do this too. Like I know my mom's job as a manager, sometimes the work comes home with you. And it's like, okay, X person is calling you needing an answer, but it's like you can't say like, oh, well, I'm not on the clock anymore and hang up. Whereas with games, if shit hits the fan, okay, let's try to fix this because it can't just be oh, we'll fix that tomorrow, even though sometimes it should be like that. One of the things that you brought up before we went live that I want to bring up because this was the one that kind of stuck with me is where you said we shouldn't expect like exact gaming release days like at E3 and stuff.
Yeah, and so for that, the reason I wholeheartedly believe that is the fact of that starts setting unrealistic expectations on
Yeah.
the dev. Obviously, you know, you run into a situation of where it's like, oh, if a dev doesn't do blah 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 blah, like if this doesn't come out at this time, like people tend to make a big fucking deal about it, and they, basically kind of borderline raise hell about it. Of where I just look at it and it's a situation of like I think we shouldn't know what a game's release date is until it is ready to come out.
Well, and the thing I immediately like thought about that, and yet again, this is me being a little shitlord, is that point will never go away. I feel like that, like saying that you want that to go away, it's impossible because of how I don't feel like we as gamers are going to do what we have to do because, like, the example I look at is just this past E3, that was like a week ago. Every single stream that I watched with the showcases, there was somebody, like, for example, I was watching Kind of Funnies for the Microsoft showcase. And I can't remember which game it was. I think it was Halo. It was Halo Infinite. That was it. It was Halo Infinite. Where Snowbike Mike was like, oh, why couldn't we get a date? Why are we still getting holiday 2021? Like, give us a date. Let's go. Let's roll with this. And then Jeff Grubb came on after they did their showcase thing to kind of say, hey, I saw online that you had posted or tweeted about like why there was no date. I just want to basically come on here and clarify and basically like the reason why the developers did that and Microsoft decided to only say holiday is if the game has to be pushed back for whatever reason, they weren't locked into a secure date. It's not like a cyberpunk situation where it's like this date. Oh no, this date. Oh no, this date. Oh no, this date. It's just, hey, we're aiming for holiday 2021. And then in that case, if they have to push it back to January, it's like, well, technically that was the holiday season. And if they have to push it back further than that, gamers aren't going to get mad and say like, oh, well, you told me this exact date and I had it pre-ordered for this date. I personally do not feel that is going to go away because of what I saw, because of what we as gamers. I don't think the collective we as gamers are going to be like, all right, let's not expect game release dates at E3 and Game Awards. It's all about, and yet again, it goes into that first point of it's because of the hype cycle. The hype cycle is there. We live off the hype. The hype is like a drug for us. When that date gets announced, it's like, let's go. Like Starfield. People were excited. Holy shit. November 11th next year. I get to fucking play it. Let's go.
Yeah, and I think the example you use of like the Starfield, the only thing is Bethesda only ever gives us a release date when they're ready for the game to come out.
Exactly. Maybe it's on the gaming company to say, hey, we know what the game is like. We are not going to do that, though. We will not give you a date until we are absolutely ready to do so.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the major things that I think is going to be part of the onus to the gaming industry getting better is essentially, we hold gaming companies accountable. That will force companies to be like, okay, we have to do better because otherwise our profits are going to be hit. Now, obviously, there is a group of people. I'm not saying anyone in specific, but people who tend to be more on the casual side of gaming that they tend to kind of let gaming get away with certain things. And I'm not trying to make it sound like like the fucking creator of this company murdered somebody, so they let him get away with it.
Yeah.
Like what I mean by that is like, for instance, I'm gonna use just a random example of like they let Activision get away with a lot of things because they're like, okay, I don't care what's happening with the employee. I'm just here for the game. Just give me the goddamn game.
We don't humanize the devs enough, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think it's the fact of I think that's like a thing just kind of with like the workplace in general, and I'm not trying to make this like a huge fucking political thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's politics into this though.
Yeah, of where I think it's you have to look at this in a situation of like, okay, where does this fall into like a sort of boundary of what, like basically where do we as gamers draw the line? I think that's a major thing that needs to be put into the discussion of where do we draw the line? What do we view as like, okay, like you need to fucking slow your roll here, company.
Yeah.
Because like I think one of the examples I would use like was with Cyberpunk, of where like obviously they did have like the pressure from like investors basically being like, hey, get this fucking game out, we're tired of waiting. But then they also on top of that, the company itself is like, oh, we want that Christmas money. So
yet again, that's also a thing. We've got like, for example, the holiday season, like with E3, mainly going back to like what I said, where it was like, oh, why didn't I get a date? Why am I just getting holiday? Because like there's also the time of like with Halo, they had to say holiday because they're targeting holiday. They want to give you a date that's like December something, but they have to say holiday because they can't just leave no date because it's like, okay, that's a big fucking time where we make money. You announce, usually how it works is you announce the date in E3 area around June, and then boom, it comes out in holiday, so everyone's hyped up for it.
yeah, and I think as the hype cycle, and obviously like I think you can still have the hype cycle. I think that's what a lot of companies may not see yet.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're in a situation of where it's like, we're like, you know what, dude, fuck it, just push it out. Like if it's bad, we can fix it in post. We can just come back to this problem later.
Yeah.
And I think that's a major thing that, as gamers, we need to tell companies like, no, you need to stop doing that because that's not helping your game. And just kind of, I'd almost say like the third bullet point to it is essentially and I know this is going to sound like a really weird bullet point, and this is like the super fucking long, like the long game version of this, is essentially, I think what we need to do is try to get more people who are willing to take a stand against it in gaming.
Okay.
Like, we need, like, the fact of, you see too many people who are way too complacent with crunch being a thing in the gaming industry, of where you run into a situation now of it's become so ingrained of where, like, you find new people in the industry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, like, I don't know any specific names, but, like, I'll just say, like, people who are, like, younger devs who are, like, I loved this idea of being a game dev when I was younger, but now that I'm here, it's like, I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're running into a situation like that, of where, like, the next generation of people who are stepping in hate the fucking culture of what it is, that's a fucking bad sign, because then at that point, especially with how readily available information is, like, the fact that we'll know if a company crunches if a company doesn't want us to know.
Yeah.
Because an employee will be like, yeah, fuck you, you can't censor my Twitter. You crunched, and, like, I missed out on important moments of my kid's life, or, like, oh, like, I had this happen, and, like, what did the company do? Jack diddly shit. They didn't care.
I mean, I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound like a douchey thing to say, is we shouldn't, like, I'm not going to say we shouldn't expect, but we shouldn't hope that companies are going to be like, oh, you're right, we're not going to crunch because, like, the company, maybe I just look at it and I go, the company is obviously not going to do what's in the best interest of the people. They're going to do what's in the best interest to get them their money. So, like, it's easy for me to say on a platform like this, oh, well, if you're one of those workers, don't fucking work there. But at the same time, it's not like and I know this from experience in my field, it's not like you can turn around and say, hey, fuck you, and then, oh, turn around, I got this job already. Because the jobs just, they grow on jobbies. I don't know if you knew that. You got to get into you got to put your helmet on, get into your cannon, and shoot like Charlie into Jobland, where jobs grow on jobbies.
I mean, honestly, dude, what you got to do is you got to sit there and you got to plant your little job tree. You got to plant your pay stub in the backyard. Wait a couple years and it'll grow.
Yep, that nice old jobby that'll give you the job.
Yeah, but I think as well, and this actually kind of leads into another thing of like just as gamers and mostly specifically for people who are getting into the gaming industry as a career.
Yeah.
Look to be an indie developer.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, essentially, obviously, yes, you won't make as much money as you would if you worked at like a Naughty Dog, I'm not gonna throw Rockstar in here. Rockstar doesn't crunch, but you won't be in a situation of where like an Activision, like a CD Projekt Red, like a Naughty Dog, of where like they crunch, where like you won't be in a situation like that. Like obviously, like I said, you won't be making money, and obviously that sucks. But for instance, like, if we see more upstarts, and obviously I know a lot of people would view it as like making a company is hard, which it is. I'm not gonna sit here and be on a pedestal and be like, gaming companies aren't hard. You guys are just dumb. Like, I'm not gonna try to take a defense like that. But I think a situation of, seeing more people take passion projects for gaming, basically building like small indie studios off of those.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I'm gonna word it this way, like bleeding the big companies dry of employees, encouraging people to be able to go to smaller studios.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, like, people kind of view it as like you're not shit in the gaming industry till you're in one of the big studios.
Here, I'm gonna look this up, and you're gonna see. Usually, I have my tablet out, but I said I didn't need my my tablet for this. But like, it almost reminds me of when we had the big news that I know, like, me and you kind of mocked it in a sense because it's like, oh, he's retiring. Was when, like, Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, he's retiring because people are pissed off on a different note that he's given money to so many Republican candidates. So that's the controversy that he's kind of been around. But even in his quote that when he said, it kind of reminds me of like what you're saying, where he says, I've had a blessed, fulfilling, and rich career. I've been shown such great kindness, and I've tried to show great kindness in return. I've tried to make some great games, and I've witnessed the creation of possibly the most creative and talented fan base on the planet. But here on the 7th anniversary of the game's trailer, as I realize that I was in my mid-30s when I created the series, and now I'm approaching my mid-40s, I realize that I miss a lot of things that I got to focus on before Five Nights at Freddy's became a success. I miss making games for my kids, I miss doing it for fun, and I miss making RPGs even though I suck at it. All of this is to say I'm retiring. Like, that quote came up in my head because when you said you can kind of like, if you want to walk away from the big business and do like a startup or an indie studio, like, are you going to have the same resources that you had? No. But like, you can probably get that same feeling that like Scott was mentioning, to where it's like, yeah, you know what, this game might not make as much money. This game isn't going to be on the level of the like first party games, the big AAA games, but hey, I get to do something that is fulfilling and that I want to do. Like, but that's also the thing of, will it pay? Like, there's the reality of like, will it pay the bills? What's going to happen? Okay, I got to stay with this company because they pay a lot more than it would if I was an indie. Like, obviously, there's all those things that go into it, but maybe by doing what you say, you get to kind of have more sanity, if that makes sense, than if you're like, okay, I'm just going to stay here and slave away at this game company.
Yeah, and obviously, like, and I know, like, crunch is a very, like, divisive thing amongst gamers, and it's because the fact, for instance, like, a lot of people have the mentality of, like, if you are not able to handle crunch, you shouldn't be in the industry, which, I mean, this is the thing. Everyone's opinion is valid. I may not agree with certain people's opinions. Like, for instance, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you should have to work, like, a stupid amount of hours just to basically get the, like, oh, hey, all those hours you work, we're gonna kind of cut how much you made there. You didn't make that much, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all, like, it reminds me a lot of, like, the field that I went into of teaching, to where it's like, one, you always hear teachers say, oh, well, I didn't get into it for the money. And I believe that. There's a lot of teachers out there that didn't say, oh, I want to become a teacher because I'm going to make $1 million and be a millionaire. But, like, there's also, like, I think about my life, to where it's like, how many teachers, it's like, hey, you know, end of the day happened about 2 hours ago. Yeah, but I got to get all this ready for tomorrow, or get this all ready, to where it's like, it almost goes to like a, don't take, I was always told, don't take how much you make and try to figure out how much you make per hour, because it'll just make yourself sick. And it's almost like I look at teaching and I go, that's never going to change. Although teachers should be paid, like, basically more than they are. I look at it and I go, it's probably never going to change. Should we have the same mindset here? Can we change it? Or will it always be well, it sucks, but it's never going to fucking change? His mic's muted, or I lost him.
Yeah, I muted because I'm stupid.
Okay. I was like, I either lost him because of the internet or his mic's muted.
Yeah, like, I fully agree. I think it is something that we can change. And, like, it's the fact of, I think right now, the major things that we need to look forward to changing in the gaming industry in general is we need to basically, and obviously I already know I said it, and I don't want to sound like a broken record with saying, holding companies accountable, making sure that, like, they're treating employees the way they should.
Yeah.
But as well, on top of that, of just we're slowly getting into this age of where companies aren't able to get away with treating their employees like shit anymore, because the fact we have social media, like, we have platforms that employees are willing to speak out on.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, some of those people lose their jobs, which always sucks when someone loses their job, especially over if it's something like that.
Yeah.
But basically, it being able to be put on a platform, it being able to be broadcasted to the world, and basically it goes from being like that's a trivial issue, just do your job better, to where then we hear more of, like, the details of, like, hey, like, I would go home, I'd be home for like 5 minutes, and then I'm called back to the office because we didn't get something done.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing the fact that people are willing to speak up about the industry, and obviously, there are people who still won't speak up about it because, they understand the implications of, like, if enough people turn in the gaming industry, people won't want to buy games anymore.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people are willing to be like, oh, fuck it, I'll risk that. Like, and I think that's the major change we need. We need more people who are willing to essentially throw their job security at the wall. And I know, obviously, that sounds really fucked up to say, but, like, that's how you get change. Like, I know a lot of people always say, like, oh, well, they should unionize. The only thing is, with gaming, they could outsource.
Yeah.
Unions only really work in a sense of where, and I know, like, I'm not a union expert, but unions work in the void of there's no one they can outsource something to. Of where with gaming, they can outsource it to, like, a country or something, or, like, another company that's willing to charge less.
Yeah.
They can just be like, yeah, fuck it. We don't need to pay you to do this. We'll just pay someone else to do it. Get the fuck out.
Yeah. There's like, that's the thing with gaming. It's global. Like, there's companies all over the fucking world That it's like, oh, you think you a little American unions can do anything? Nah, we'll just find a Japanese studio or a Polish studio or a European studio, and we'll just do it with them because they don't fucking care. And we're gonna do whatever we can to get this game done and get it done the way we want.
Yeah, and that's where I think, as much as it sucks to be able to say, like, I don't think gaming will ever unionize. Like, I wish it could, because the fact of, unions help to prevent bad things from happening to the employees, but once again, like, if they're able to outsource, and as well, gaming's just a super saturated thing right now.
Yeah,
You have so
very
many
popular.
people like, you have people graduating from universities. Like, I'm just going to use the one that I know of that has a lot of people coming out from gaming.
Yeah,
Wholesale's entire thing is like, hey, we're gaming.
yeah.
That's what we do.
I mean, they also got podcasting stuff too.
Oh yeah, but
Like
like
announcing,
they're
'cause I
primarily
see-
like,
Because I see fucking, I think it's Dan Patrick promotes Full Sail.
yeah, but like Wholesale basically, they heavily encourage gaming because of the fact of that's what they built their roots off of.
Yeah.
So, like, we understand gaming's a huge thing. It's going to be a boom. They base their entire schooling is primarily like a gaming school, and that's mostly just because of how they run everything. Of like, oh hey, we have it that our teachers are people who worked in the industry.
Yeah.
And I almost kind of wish, as something that at the beginning of, people going into a gaming course, like, I don't want to say, like, use a fear tactic because,
Yeah.
but, like, basically tell people, like, hey, listen, gaming's not going to be all it's cracked up to be. Like, there's hardship in this business. It's not sunshine and rainbows if you work at a big company. It is the company will use you, they will break you, and once you are broken, they'll just get rid of you.
Yeah, I mean, and yet again, I hate to be that guy. Like I said, at the beginning, I was gonna be this guy. Like, to me, this is just something though that I look at it and I go, I don't know if this is gonna change. I don't know if I will be alive for when this changes, if it does, because I feel like crunch in this is just gonna be a part of gaming forever.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's going to be around for a while more.
Mm-hmm.
I think in my lifetime I'll see it. I don't know if it'll be insanely substantial change, what it should be, but I think we start to see steps within the next 10 years.
Okay.
And it's because, like, I think we're going to see baby steps. We won't get, like, a massive overhaul.
Yeah.
But I think we're, like, one or two more, like, massive failed, like, rushed projects.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, obviously,
What if
we don't have the full
Halo Infinite fails? Is that enough to?
Well, I mean, to be fair, Halo Infinite's
They
not.
haven't had crunch,
It's not
though,
crunch.
so it's not going to be a big thing. You're saying like another Anthem, another Cyberpunk kind
Yeah,
of
like
thing.
another game that gets pushed out way too early,
Yeah.
I think could be something that could tip the scales, especially with the fact we're seeing really good games that have no crunch coming out. Like, that was the problem, like, a couple of years ago, obviously when people were speaking up about it,
Yeah.
like, every game was crunched. Everything was basically done to the point of, like, we're getting this done as quick as we can to maximize profit. But for instance, we see a game like Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
No crunch, potentially Game of the Year candidate. We're starting to see companies put more emphasis on being like, no, we're going to do everything in our power to not crunch because we understand what it does to our employees. We understand what it does to people that work for us. We understand that being in a crunch environment's not a good one. But also, just as, like, I guess my final bulletin point is essentially, and this is almost more of like a warning sort of to people going into the gaming industry,
Yeah.
do research before you apply for any of these big companies. Like, check to see, like, do they have a history of crunching? Like, for instance, if you ever apply for Insomniac, you're in good hands.
Yeah.
They will never crunch you.
Yeah.
Because the way their company is set up is they set it up so, like, there is no crunch. Like, they will take the longest fucking time possible, or at least longest time available to them,
Yeah.
to do that. Like, for instance, if you're signing up to work for a company like, I'm just gonna throw Activision out there again, because I guess this is just the Soapy Bashes Activision for 50 minutes episode. But like, if you're applying for a job at Activision, like,
Mm-hmm.
know what you're getting into.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Companies are going to have their reputation to where it's like, for example, if you apply at Activision, you got to know what you're getting into, right? It's not like oh, well, this totally blindsided me. It's like, well, no, look at the writing on the wall. This is how the company has basically performed for years.
Yeah, and I think it's just the fact that we view it as like this, and a lot of people who are getting into the gaming industry as a
Mm-hmm.
job are people who like they wanted to do this since they were kids.
Yeah.
And like you almost kind of get that like not nostalgic, but like you kind of get like this like, that sort of feeling of like I'm gonna scrape all the bad stuff to the side,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just gonna look at the good. And I think that's
Yeah.
what a lot of people need to look at the gaming industry with. Of like you can't look at this. It's not even rose tinted glass because that's nostalgia. Like don't look at this with like childlike wonder of like I get to work on a video game.
Yeah.
Look at this as like this is a job.
Mm-hmm.
This is what
That's the thing.
happens here.
That's the thing, though. A lot of people get into gaming because of their wide-eyed wonderment of, oh my god, I played games as a kid, and now I get to make video games.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the thing. Like, we want people who are passionate about
Mm-hmm.
gaming in
Yeah.
gaming because the fact that the more passionate people there are,
Mm-hmm.
the better that games will be because people will care more and more about it.
Yeah.
It's mostly just I look at it and it's at a situation with me, and I just look at it and I just think to myself of like the fact that we're in a situation of we literally see people just borderline stop caring about gaming. Like people who are in the gaming industry, obviously, like you brought up the fact that
Mm-hmm.
Scott retired for varying different reasons.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, though, like, is he? Could you make the inference that he's a shit person because he has gave money to people who are from a party you don't like, and also probably I think Donald Trump was also on that list. You could, but like I saw controversy and it was like, oh, he gave to Republicans. Yeah, that's gonna change like what I think of him, but like shouldn't have to retire from making games because he chose to give his money that you gave him, his money to whoever he wants to.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, that's just a different conversation for another day as well.
Yeah.
But like, I just kind of look at it, and it's the more that my dog barks, and the more my brain turns off because of it. Of like, I just sit here and I just genuinely think to myself at times of like, it's it's weird being in a situation of where like something that even I grew up with like this childlike wonder of like basically being at the point of where like I kind of look at it in this like negative light now of where it's like I know like the dark side of what's on the other side of it
Yeah.
of where let's say like 3 years ago, obviously I know 3 years ago isn't that long ago, but like for instance 3 years ago like all the stuff that we know about you know what. Oh my god, my dog barking like completely threw me off.
Soapy's like I'm done. I was gonna say this will probably be the last point because I'm kind of spent.
Yeah, but basically it's just a seeing like it's basically the fact of seeing gaming. I don't want to say for what it really is because
Yeah.
then like that just kind of comes off as being like a prick when I word it like that. But like seeing the dark side of gaming that like you don't see as a kid, like you don't want to see like oh hey they're taking advantage of people.
Yeah.
We're fine with this, right? Yeah, let's go.
Ooh,
Like
let's go.
yeah, it's like it sucks to see that, and that I hope in my lifetime I get to see a situation of where we're not looking at gaming as like a oh you only get into that if you like not if you're a masochist, but like
Yeah.
if you can handle working work schedules that even people who do construction can't fucking do, and construction has like even more time constraints.
Yeah. I mean, is crunch gonna end? Probably not anytime soon, but like it is something that like the thing I said earlier, like we don't usually we don't humanize the workers that are working on these games and the devs. I'm talking about the lower end devs, not the big companies that put these games together. But that's going to do it for the show today. Obviously, let us know what you guys think down below about this. Like, are there things that we brought up today that you agree with, don't agree with? Did we not bring anything up that probably should have been brought up? Continue that discussion with us down below in the comment section. Make sure to join the Discord, MVP Discord, where we're always having great conversations each and every day. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids is your go-to with that. Hit that sub button, like button, notification button as well. Soapy and I will not be back tomorrow. I have a family wedding that I have to go to, so Soaps and I will not be back tomorrow. It's going to be a long weekend for us. We will be back on Monday talking about more gaming news. I want to thank you guys for being as great as you always are. And as always, have a good day, everybody.